Okay, so if you've ever said to yourself, I want to start eating healthy, I want to start feeling nice about myself, eating clean, but you don't know where to begin, you don't have the time, you don't have the energy, this video is for you. My diet used to literally consist of Nutella, cereal, basically every shite thing you can think of under the sun. That was my entire diet, and I've managed to completely switch my lifestyle around in a way that is not restrictive, and I'm actually so much happier with how I live my life and how I eat now. So I'm going to break this down for you in 4 easy steps. Before I dive in, I just want to say I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not an expert or whatever. I am just somebody who has figured this out by themselves, and I think nutritionists are great, obviously they're there for a reason, but a lot of the time I do find the information out there is so overwhelming. So this is coming from somebody who has figured it out themselves. You know, I used to eat like trash and now I eat things like this. I've come such a long way with my wellness, my health, my well-being. So yeah, I just want to break it down nice and easy for you. Anyway, without further ado, this is what I've nicknamed the Lazy Girl's Guide to Clean Eating or Eating Well, whatever. Okay, so just so you know what I'm going to kind of run through, I've got my steps in front of me. Part 1 is very much on like the mindset shift, so what eating clean and organic actually is. Number 2, we've got sort of like the clean eating essentials, I would say. Part 3 is some of the easy rules that I live by. And part 4 is actually making it stick without trying too hard. So let's dive straight into part 1. So part 1, what actually is eating clean? Now, when I'm talking about this, I am not saying that you need to be perfect with what you eat, because it's so hard to be perfect. I've improved my diet massively, and sometimes you want to go out for a meal or you want to have something a bit cheeky. So this is not going to be a video of me saying you have to eat broccoli every single day. I'm not saying that at all. What you want to think of it is as less processed food and more real. So when I talk about like clean and organic foods, I'm apparently not able to speak. What I'm talking about is more whole foods. So when I make my meals, I'm essentially getting like the bare ingredients. Like when I'm putting vegetables on my plate, so for example broccoli or cauliflower or courgette or peppers or pak choi, whatever it is, right? That is the bare ingredient. There's no long ingredients list that goes with it. It is essentially just that. If I'm having some protein, it is just chicken, it is just a steak, it is just fish. Like there is nothing, no additives, no extra bits and bobs added into it. If I want some carbs, I'll cook some quinoa, some sweet potato. Again, it is just that. I don't know if this makes sense, but it is literally just the bare food, if that makes any sense, without a whole massive ingredients list that you don't need. When I used to eat sort of frozen meals and processed meals, you notice that when you look at the ingredients list, it goes on and on and on. So if you compare something like this, where you've got the raw ingredients there, obviously I say raw, you cook them and you steam them and whatever, but they are the bare ingredients, versus this, which is, the ingredients list of some packaged meal, you see that there's just so much extra stuff in there that you do not need. So I'd say when you're going to the supermarket, just look at ingredients and start having a think if that is necessary to be in there. And also, of course, I'm not saying you need to cook every single meal. I know that can be difficult, but trying to as often as you can is so helpful. When you're constantly going out or getting fast food or having meals that are pre-made for you, you're not controlling what's going into them. So one big shift that I made was trying to cook for myself. I cook for myself, or sometimes my lovely mum cooks for me, or if you've got a partner or a friend, you can cook for each other. But cooking at home, knowing what you've made, is such an important shift. A lot of the time, if I look at the ingredients and it sounds like some kind of science experiment, I usually steer clear. Now, as I'm trying to What am I trying to say? I know that for a lot of people, if you're busy and you don't have time and you just need a quick microwave meal, that they are very tempting, but there are so many other options, you know, things like bulk cooking, and I know people batch cook and things like that. So when you can cook at home, you know what's going into your body, you know what you're making, and just kind of keep the ingredients as clean and as raw to their form as possible. So for part 2, this is like the clean eating essentials. Now, people might have so many different things that they love to have on a regular basis that they consider sort of clean and they want as part of their diet. Now for me, when I go on my little Saturday weekly shop, I pretty much get the same sort of staples. But what I like to do is kind of have like an essentials list of things that I pretty much always want to get, because I'm always trying to include it in my diet. What I'll do is I'll throw up a list of pretty much the essentials that I get every week. Now, alongside this, I obviously get other bits, you know, if you're trying to cook a particular meal or whatnot, you know, of course you're going to get other bits, but this is like the bare essentials that I try to get every single week. I try to include in my diet every single week. I know a lot of people go into like AI and they basically just say, this is my, you know, this is my goal. I'm trying to eat cleaner. I'm trying to avoid this or add in this. Could you make me a shopping list? And AI will essentially write one out for you. And I think that's so helpful. But yeah, I try to keep it not too difficult for myself. You know, if I've got a list, I know what I'm going into the supermarket to get. It makes things so much easier. And a quick note on that, a lot of people like doing sort of like lazy bowls. So I know I've seen a lot of people have like, you know, broccoli, mince, rice, sweet potato, like a little lazy bowl. And they'll have that literally on rotation throughout the whole week. Not gonna lie, my dinners are usually like 3 basics. You know, there'll be some pan roasted vegetables or air fry roasted vegetables, some kind of meat, usually chicken or salmon or mince, and then a carb, usually sweet potato and quinoa. I keep it so incredibly simple, and like those are the 3 key pillars, you know, the fiber, the protein, the carbs. And then if I want to have a bit of guacamole on the side for some healthy fats, drizzle a bit of olive oil onto it. But I always have those 3 key pillars. And as long as I'm ticking those off, I'm happy, I'm set. So that kind of segues nicely onto the part 3, which is the rules that I live by. So already I kind of spoke about it just a second ago. But with my meals, if you are overwhelmed, include fiber. Here's some examples of fiber. Include protein. Here's some examples of protein. 3, include carbs. Here are some examples of carbs. If you look at the sort of meals that I eat, they all include those basics. When I'm feeling fancy, when I've, you know, got something else that I want to whack on, you know, some beetroot, kimchi, sauerkraut, guacamole, whatever. Add that on too. A bit of salady stuff, a bit of pomegranate. Cool, amazing. But at the end of the day, my meals will always have those 3 things. I know I've said it quite a few times before, but I'm really trying to stress that point. Don't overwhelm yourself. The next kind of rule that I live by is I always have my 3 meals. Now, this is for me personally. I know some people don't particularly like doing this, but for me, having a proper 3-meal structure every day has been so important for me. So I wake up and I try and eat my breakfast within an hour of waking. I do this because it helps with your blood sugar balance. So when I eat within an hour of waking, it's going to keep that stable. And I used to eat things like Nutella and cereal, but I never stayed full for long because they're not very nutritious. So what I then started doing was having a proper breakfast, which includes some kind of protein. This is what my breakfast looked like at the moment. It looks super random, but I have lentils, avocado, red cabbage, some kind of protein. Maybe I'll add in like a bit of chicken if I've got some left over, or you know, any kind of protein, a little bit of salmon, and is that it? Oh, and an egg. and an egg, yeah. And looks super random, and it is super random, but it works for me. But again, if you can't think of anything, I mean, TikTok is full of like amazing ideas which are packed full of protein, but having a proper breakfast has been so important for me. It keeps me actually full until lunchtime, because I used to get so much cravings and start snacking all of the time because I wasn't properly full. So that has been a massive game changer for me. And then, as I say, I have a proper lunch and I have a proper dinner, always including the 3 pillars that I keep mentioning: the fibre, the protein, the carbs. So I have those, and then you can add in anything you want. I always try to eat my meals around the same kind of time, and I'm not talking like 12:30 on the dot, I need to be eating at the exact same time. I usually just try to keep it within like the hour or so. You know, it's not like the end of the world, but I think it's just nice. Keep your body regulated, keep it in a cycle when it knows and expects when food is going to come. So yeah, if you want to have a snack, have a blimmin' snack. Do you know what I mean? Don't try and starve yourself until you get to dinner. For me, I love snacks like Brazil nuts, dark chocolate. I saw someone make a really nice like carroty salad thing. I know that sounds a bit like weird, but it looked really nice. I don't know if I can get a picture of it. But people have all kind of things, you know, I'll have some fruit, anything like that. But don't restrict yourself. There is, again, so much inspiration on TikTok or Google, anywhere, of some nice snacks that you can have to keep you full, because you don't need to restrict yourself. Another thing is like sweet treats or desserts or things like that. So I've absolutely nailed my sort of dessert, I guess. If I'm really wanting something, I'll have like coconut yogurt with banana, cinnamon, chia seeds, a bit of pumpkin seeds, and then I'll drizzle some raw honey over the top. I love this. It's like, I actually get so excited to eat it. It's packed full of goodness as well. Like, I look forward to it and I crave it, and it satisfies my sweet tooth, but it's not a bunch of like refined sugars, if you see what I mean. And again, if you want a donut, if you want some cake, I'm not telling you no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying if you are trying to think of something where you can phase those sort of things out slowly, there are plenty of options for you out there, honestly. The final thing I would say on this matter is I always try and eat as organic as I can. Obviously it's not always possible, and I know that organic food is often a lot more expensive than normal food, which is such a shame. But yeah, when I can, I will always go for things that say organic or, you know, pasture raised eggs. If you want to look into that, there's like, I think it's called the Dirty Dozen. If you just Google that, it will kind of explain about which foods you should probably get organic and which foods you don't need to as much. And finally, moving on to part 4, which is making it stick. Now, this is one of the most important things, because when I was trying to change up my routine and eat better, making it stick was really difficult, and it took me months of like, I would mess up, I'd redo the cycle, I'd mess up, I'd redo the cycle. Like, oh my gosh, I honestly just used to just freak out every time I ate something bad, and I would think, oh, now I'm just gonna bin it off for the rest of the week, and then I'm gonna restart on the Monday, and then I'd mess it up again. No, this is how you can fix that. The first thing I would say is add in the good stuff before you take away the bad stuff. And by the bad stuff, what I mean is the stuff that you want to do less of, the processed stuff, the refined sugars and things like that. So for me, when I was working with my nutritionist, she said to me, add in the good stuff. You know, if you want to increase your protein, if you want to increase your fiber, do that first before you're then trying to get rid of the stuff that you're trying to avoid. Because if you wipe all of that away before you've added in stuff, you're just left with a very empty and boring plate, and you're not going to eat that. That's not nice. Nobody wants to eat that. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I would always advise that you start slowly bringing in the good stuff so that you're nourishing your body and you actually feel full, so then it doesn't matter if you're starting to get rid of the other stuff. The second thing is make it easy for yourself. So as I said in one of the earlier steps, is make bowls that you can, or meals that you can kind of repeat. So a lot of people, as I say, they like the whole rice and mince and sweet potato bowls, but whatever it is, whatever works for you, whatever you enjoy eating, try and have some meals that you have on rotation, so therefore you can batch cook it, or you can just cook it quicker because you're kind of used to doing it, and it takes away that whole decision fatigue. Because when I was first starting my healthy eating journey, I kind of thought I needed to cook something new every single day, and that was just so overwhelming. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. If there's staples that you love, keep having those. I mean, I pretty much have a lot of my meals on repeat all the time, and I don't get bored of it because they're actually nourishing and they're actually tasty. The next thing I'd say is don't let guilt ruin the day. It doesn't need to be this all or nothing. This was very much my mentality at the start, which was so damaging. I was pretty much like, I need to be completely perfect and amazing with my healthy eating all the time, or I'm just going to give it up. And so every time I made a mistake, I would literally bin the whole thing off, and I would be like, oh, I need to start again next week. This is not the case. If you slip up and you maybe ate something that you probably didn't want to, or you're not particularly proud of, that's okay. You can sort of even think of it as like a graph, right? I was trying to explain this to someone the other day, but like, if you're going along and you're doing well with your progress and you have a little blip, carry on. It was a blip. Whereas what I used to do is I'd have a blip and then I'd just go, oh, off the scale, I've ruined it, absolutely ruined. Like, no. If you're getting into a good routine and you have a couple slip-ups, carry on. I promise you, it's not the end of the world. The next thing is small changes. I've already touched on this, but it goes with, all kinds of health and well-being things. If you're trying to make changes, bring them in one at a time, small changes. For me, I had so much stuff to change, and the more I was learning about health and well-being, the more I was like, oh my god, I need to change everything at once. Don't do that. Don't overwhelm yourself, because habits take some time to stick. And so what I would do is kind of set myself a goal per week. So okay, I want to start increasing my protein every day. So consciously, that was my goal for a week, right? Add in a bit more chicken, add in a bit more whatever, chickpeas, whatever. That was my conscious goal. Next week, I really want to start drinking more water. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to buy myself a massive 1.5 litre water bottle. I think it's 1.5. And I'm going to make sure I'm consciously drinking that every day. And so these habits came in slowly, because if I'm trying to implement 100 different things at once, I'm going to forget, I'm going to get stressed out, I'm going to get annoyed at myself. So small changes lead to a massive result. And the last point I'd say, which is quite a helpful one, is meal prep doesn't need to be 10 different containers in your fridge. If that's not what works for you and you don't want to do that, then don't. What I do a lot of the time is actually, with like pan roasted vegetables, I'll just roast a bunch at once, and I'll put them in a massive container and then take them out when I need it. Or if I'm cooking some quinoa, I'll just do like a bigger lot, essentially, to last for a couple days rather than just one day. It doesn't need to be you've got all the meals laid out for the entire week. That's not necessary if you don't want to do that. It could just be cooking what you're cooking now, but in a slightly larger portion so that you can have it tomorrow. So yeah, clean eating does not need to be time consuming and scary. Just break it down for yourself as much as you possibly can. But yeah, if this helped you, then subscribe and feel free to follow along, because I love breaking down wellness into bite-sized chunks for people, and I love doing this kind of content. So yes, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall be back with some more.